Thank you for joining me for podcast number 84, entitled The Journey is Worth It. It is the process that matters. Life was not meant to be easy, handed to you on a silver platter. There is no value in that, and it shows. People who were given a brand new BMW for their sweet 16 birthday treat it like it's disposable. If you bust your ass all through school, get a good paying job, pay off your debts, and then buy that new Beamer, it will be your prized possession and you will treat it accordingly. Earning things is where it's at, and that takes two different things: patience and persistence. There is a reason why I consider myself a successful coach. I was not super talented, special in any particular way, or handed an easy road growing up in a life of affluence that granted me opportunities that others never had. I had to work really hard for everything that I achieved. I didn't grow up in a country club lifestyle or have the proverbial private quarterback coach from the time I was 10 years old, hoping to be a high school and college quarterback. I had to figure things out the hard way and get some help from those around me where I could. I can relate to the struggles of a beginner or someone that has plateaued out at a certain level. I have been there. I understand. I have empathy for that current situation, regardless of where you may be on the path. I have known the ultimate highs of success, and I have certainly felt the sting of failure, the grind of hard work with no end in sight, and only incremental improvements. I get it. But I also know that you need this. I would not be the same person now if I had not suffered along the way, nor will you be at the end of your journey. What I am here to do is to help you keep on the path, stay headed in the right direction, and maybe help minimize the bruises along the way. I just spoke to an up-and-coming tennis player recently who is a top-level junior player in the United States. She is coached by a good friend of mine, and he asked me to give her some input on a few different things. She and I discussed a couple of things, topics that I feel familiar with and can speak on. She listened, understanding that I am someone who wants to, let's say, send the elevator back down and help her on her journey. At the end of our conversation, I made her only one promise, because there are no guarantees in life. I promised her that it would be worth it. I know, I've been there. The struggles, the journeys, the adventure, the wins, the losses, all of it will shape who you are into a different person and someone with a more well-rounded perspective of life. That may not happen during the journey. It may be years after when things finally click, but that journey will have been worth it because of that. You will have experiences to draw from that few others will ever know. You will have a wealth of knowledge that rare few people actually possess. It is a brethren, a family of people who get it, who know what it's like to be the man in the arena. Anytime I speak with a professional athlete, a highly successful business person, or someone who has risen above the rest, we both know. Game recognizes game. Or for my older listeners, a hired gun knows another one when he sees one. Whether you're starting a business, just entering school, or trying to hit the next level in your sport or endeavor of choice, keep what I've shared here in mind. Step back once in a while and have a big picture view. Be sure to change your perspective, just on occasion, to 10 years from now, and look back on how what you're doing right now would feel in hindsight. Remind yourself that it takes patience and persistence to succeed, and that shortcuts don't pay off. Getting it handed to you won't have the same value. Remember, you need this journey. You need every win and every loss, every belly flop and every moment of doubt and fear. This is the win in the end. It is the experiences that you have along the way. You don't have to have a multi-million-dollar exit or an Olympic medal to show what you did was a success. Regardless of where the journey ends, I promise you it will be worth it. So some additional thoughts on that. That initial blog and podcast that I did was short and sweet, but I do really like the sentiment in it because I strongly believe that this is true. In my professional racquetball career, I had an atrocious win to loss ratio. Now, the way the Pro Tour was structured during the time that I played, I was ranked high enough that I no longer had to qualify. I was put into the main draw, but I always faced somebody who was ranked higher than me in the first round. So literally in 6 years' time, I had probably 4 times the number of losses that I did wins in my professional career. Now, on the flip side of that, I was still playing amateur competition, and in that 6-year run, when I was playing on the Pro Tour and at my absolute peak, here in Arizona, when I played the local tournaments, I was 134-9. Some of those 9 losses were professional events that were held here in Arizona. So if that is, I'm probably counting them twice in my pro career and my amateur career. So it's probably more like 134 and let's call it 6. That is an amazing record. And for the longest time, I dwelled on the fact that I had such a terrible pro record. If you combine the two together, I had way more wins than losses, no question. But my lack of perspective had me standing in number 18 in line and seeing 17 people in front of me and feeling sorry for myself and being angry about that, instead of turning around and seeing the entire planet lined up behind me. It took me a couple of years before I really developed the perspective to understand what I had accomplished and the luxury that I had been afforded being a professional racquetball player. It's not like tennis where you make a lot of money and then as a competitor and then get to retire to a tropical island somewhere and teach lessons for $200 an hour. I knew that going in. I didn't have any illusions about that. But for me, I knew the journey would be worth it for a couple of reasons. Number one, it taught me a lot about myself. I had a lot of fears and concerns about life in general, and I had to face those to travel around the country by myself and go to cities I've never been to, initially not knowing anybody when I showed up at the tournaments. I became my own travel agent. I booked all my flights. I booked hotels. All of those things were experiences I had never had really previous to my Pro Tour career. And despite, the obvious focus on playing and competing, I had to learn all those other things as part of that process as well. And that was very formative for me, for sure. I also had the benefit of having, I say benefit now, having one of the most embarrassing losses in Pro Tour history. I'll start it with what happened and then fill in some blanks afterwards. I lost to the guy who was one of my best friends and my roommate as I traveled around on the tour, 11-0, 11-0, 11-0 in the first round of a tournament here in Phoenix, my hometown. According to the Racquetball magazine, the guy who wrote an article about that event, that had never happened to another ranked pro in the history of the game. Now, when you have an amateur who qualifies into the pro draw and it's a mismatch, yes, that could happen. But I was ranked, I think, inside the top 30 at that point in the world and never scored a single point against my friend in that match. I was running the tournament, so I was very distracted right up literally until I walked on the court to play that match. I was dealing with problems, trying to find referees for other matches, running the event. I did a hurried warm-up. I got interrupted again right before I started to play. My mind was not in the right spot, and my friend Lewis had one of the most amazing serve displays ever. that is a bad combination. And I was done in that match in probably 20 minutes. It was an absolute one-way traffic the entire time. And every time I walked past the big scoreboard out front, I would erase the number 000 behind my name, trying to hide the fact that this had just happened to me. When you play a small sport like racquetball, everybody who's involved in the sport reads the magazine, follows the tournaments, etc., and everybody knew this had happened to me. And yet, I'm still here. It didn't kill me. It didn't make me want to quit the game. It was a huge kick to my ego at the time, of course, but I learned an awful lot about that. I am not a racquetball player. I am a man, a human being who plays racquetball. And that was an important discovery for me to take away from that experience. My efforts and success or lack thereof on the court does not measure me as a person. It is something that I do. Even as my profession, it's something that I do. It's part of me. It does not define me. And that's one takeaway that I have from that journey as a competitive racquetball player that is on a list, a long list of things that I am so thankful for, the good and the bad that I got to experience. It's so easy for me to coach somebody through a very difficult situation, through an opportunity for a win that falls just short, or how to handle an exciting and amazing win and not let the next match be a letdown and you lose and blow the opportunity that you had by upsetting somebody that's a better player than you and then losing to somebody that you should beat in the very next round. I've been there. I've done that. I've had all kinds of experiences in racquetball, in my personal life, in my business life that I can draw from and make me the person that I am today. And so the main takeaway that I want to make sure that you get out of this is that regardless of what happens, the journey will be worth it. If you start a business and it fails, but you learn what not to do next time around, you learn how to protect yourself from the overall impact of a failure like that. Whatever it is that you gain from the process, that makes that journey worthwhile. Now, I don't want you to be reckless and haphazardly throw yourself into things, of course, but when you take any kind of approach to something that you're new at, you're going to have failures. You're going to make mistakes. There's going to be way fewer wins than there is losses, things like that. That is part of the journey. And if you continue to move forward and you get to the point where you have a basic understanding of what you do, now maybe the wins and losses are 50-50. And eventually you get to the point where you have more wins than losses in general. Now you're really getting somewhere. But the experiences are the takeaway. The fact that you win money or win trophies or create a successful business, whatever it may be, in my opinion, to a large degree, those things are secondary. Because don't define yourself by I own this business or I am an athlete or whatever it may be. That is one facet of what you do. And everything that you do contributes to the better version of you. And that is the real key to life. You keep moving forward. You keep learning. You keep progressing. And that is the key to a happy and successful life in the long run, for sure. As always, I don't have answers to everything, but you are welcome to the answers I have. If there's something that you think I can assist with, please reach out to me through my website at darrenchatter.com or on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Twitter at Darren Chatter. You can find me there. I would love to hear from you. I'd be happy to help. And as always, I wish you luck in your endeavors. Thank you for joining me on the Darren Chatter podcast. I'm going to be reading some of my blog posts that I have written, so that you can consume this information in an audio format versus reading the blogs if this is more to your liking. I'm going to share with you stories from my past as an athlete, as a coach, as a salesperson, as a business professional, as a VP of sales. Everything that I have learned and amassed along the way in my 50 years here on planet Earth, I'm going to hope to share with you in order to help you shorten your learning curve, understand maybe a little different way to look at things, and hopefully learn a few things along the way. So here was the podcast you tuned in for. I hope you enjoy it. Please reach out to me when you can and let me know your thoughts. Thank you.